bringing this issue to young kids who maybe not don't know the words to express themselves. So tell viewers what this campaign's all about.
Yeah, so this beautiful campaign, Sounded Out with Ad Council, is about just fostering communication between guardians and their kids, you know, and having music be a medium through which people can communicate with one another. So like whether that's writing a song or whether that's, you know, singing the music, singing the songs, using art as a form through which we communicate with one another, I think is super important. Like I had a beautiful discussion with this young 13-year-old named Anna, who had actually a beautiful sense of self and like was really mental illness will tell you is that you're worthless and that you don't belong and that no one cares about you and that your problems are seemingly very small compared to others. Like that's what these illnesses tell you over and over again. And so that creates this space of disconnection, and the disconnection is really what I feel prompts these feelings in the first place. Feeling disconnected from yourself, feeling disconnected from the world around you, feeling disconnected from your family or your friends. And a lot of the time you can't really control why you feel that way, because a lot of the times, you know, everyone in this world is acting out their trauma cycles unless they're aware of them, you know. And so a lot of the times we encounter people who trigger us, and their reason for doing that is because they have their own issues that they're not addressing within themselves. So we think it's our fault, and when you think everything is your fault, that so that's something I really love about this initiative is like encouraging those conversations, those difficult conversations, creating safe spaces for one another within our homes, within our friendships. Right. I think that's the most important thing. That community and connectivity is that lack of community and connectivity is what leads to these lies, you know?
Right. And so the song that you created and collaborated with Anna, it's in English and Spanish. It's called Temporary. What was it like to write that song with Anna and like use her story and maybe incorporate your own story into the song?
Yeah, so I mean, Anna and I's conversation was the inspiration for it. So like just the way that I really felt when I was talking to her, this sense of peace within her. And when I was her age, was very chaotic, you know? So, and silently chaotic, not like outwardly chaotic, but just internally, I had a lot going on that I didn't know how to communicate, you know? So that juxtaposition of me having gone through like this tumultuousness and her kind of being in this more peaceful place, and understanding that things are temporary. And as you move through all of your feelings, they will pass. Sometimes when the bad ones come, when the good ones come, we're like, oh my God, yes, like I just want to embrace this and be this all the time. You know, happiness feels really good, but happiness doesn't last forever, because life is always going to be challenging you to grow. Life is always going to be challenging you to be a better version of yourself than you were today or yesterday, you know? And so with that comes trigger points. With that comes looking at yourself more deeply than you might have wanted to, you know? And so that's what Temporary is about. It's just about understanding that you're alive through it all and breathing through it all.
Yeah.
Okay. You're going to be okay at the end of it all.
Yeah, and is that the message you want your fans to get across from this song? Like what are you hoping that they take the most from this?
Yeah, I think that the chorus says it all to me. Like, it's all temporary anyway. Nothing ever stays good or bad too long, you know? Like
Mm-hmm.
just, especially when you learn to let it go. Because
Mm-hmm.
that's my main thing. Like a lot of the depression and anxiety that and I'm not being honest with myself about how something makes me feel, or an environment makes me feel. When I stay places that I don't feel respected or loved in, um, and choose to stay in those spaces,
Mm-hmm.
like trying to change someone
Right.
else, like when you realize that when you learn to let things go and go with the flow and understand that everything passes and everything moves with intention, um that's when you start to loosen up a little bit as far as the anxiety goes. Like my anxiety comes in whenever I feel out of control, when I feel like I don't have the control over what's coming, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And often I'm not even honest with myself about that that's the reason why I'm feeling that way, you know,
Right.
because I want to be in control. So how the hell can I
Yeah.
admit that I'm out of control, you know? But
Right.
my anxiety dissipates majorly when I give it up to God. Like when I
Yeah.
sit with God and I pray. And God can be anything, you know what I'm saying? God is not necessarily linear either. I feel like God is just a reflection of ourselves, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so as you're when you connect with yourself and you connect with God and you talk through this shit, you know, to something that's greater than you, something that's way more powerful than you, that created all of the stuff that you see around you,
Right.
shit just feels better. You just
Yeah.
realize that you're not as lost as you thought you were.
Right. So if you see yourself like when you were a kid, you know, maybe the age that Anna is to today, there's been a huge growth in you. Can you discuss what that journey has been like for you? Like what, how it's helped you personally and with relationships and with people around you?
Yeah, I mean, from where I was when I was 14, I've definitely shifted a lot. So before I, you know, was famous, lol. When I was 16, I was hit by fame, quote unquote, which is essentially a loss of anonymity, right? And when you lose your anonymity, you all of a sudden have to grow up in front of people who have opinions about your life, that don't know you, that have never met you, that have never said two words to you, don't know shit about you, right? So, you know, when I first entered the industry, that shit really fucked me up mentally. Like, I'm not even gonna lie, like, I was not well. I was constantly anxious, very depressed, very dark, internally, but you know, externally I was super performative, and that juxtaposition of that super performativeness with the depth of the despair that I was feeling, just fucked me up mentally, you know what I'm saying? It really took me for a ride. And you know, coincidentally, the pandemic was the first time that I had the space and the time, and I know this is a blessing and a privilege, by the way. It was the
Yeah.
first time that I had the space and time to really give myself space to heal. Look at all of the things that had come up for me. Look at all of the things that had happened to me, and learn to kind of rewrite these narratives, because I kept getting triggered by the same things. You know what I mean? The same kind of conversations, the same kind of critiques, you know, if something would happen online where everybody started talking shit about me and thinking something about me, I would like lose my mind and spiral, just like trying to control the narrative of who I am, and trying to make people see who I really am. That was like a constant thing for me. And
Mm-hmm.
this pandemic really just gave me the space to understand that validation cannot come from an outside source. That I cannot be seeking my sense of self and worth from other people, especially people who don't know me, right? So I really, every time that a trigger would come up, I have to reassess, like, okay, where is this hurt coming from? What is my heart telling me about what needs to be healing right now? Who, like, what is this belief that these people are projecting onto me? Why do I believe it about myself? And where can I dive in there and give little me some more love, you know? Like, where can I be more compassionate with me? If no one else is going to be compassionate with me, if everybody else wants to hold me to this harsh standard of perfection, that I've never made a mistake and I never will, right? If everyone wants to do that to me, then I need to make the space and carve the space out for myself to give myself compassion and to give myself the space to grow and to give myself forgiveness over everything. Because when
Yeah.
we go around with this, like, we have like a grudge on ourselves of not being good enough, right?
There's a lot of pressure. Yeah.
It's a lot of pressure. And so when you have
Hmm.
that grudge and you're holding that grudge on you, you're just projecting that shit onto everyone around you at all times, even if you don't realize it, you know? So all this conflict comes up and all these people like being a reflection of those things that you haven't healed within yourself, you know? So taking the opportunity to
Yep.
observe and be inquisitive with myself about where those trigger points come from, what those deep rooted beliefs of like unworthiness and deservability, right, come
Hmm.
from. And
Yeah.
all of that, that's not my fault. That's capitalism. Other parts of you that you don't, that aren't pretty and that people
Yeah.
aren't going to accept, and loving yourself through that and loving those parts so that you can transmute them and you can transcend them.
Right. So now that we're sort of turning the corner on the pandemic and people are getting vaccinated, they're going back to their life and back to meeting people and seeing people. Now that you've gone through this transformation of more realization,
About what I need in order to feel happy and safe. I no longer overextend myself. If I don't energetically want to be somewhere, I do not go. And I don't like majorly apologize for it
hmm,
anymore. You know, I just
right.
kind of am like, no, thank you. You know, I'm good. Like things like that. Like I used to be like an overgiver. Like I would just give. And I always thought that it was like, oh wow, I'm so selfless, whatever. But really it was my ego who needed to be validated as a giving person, right? Because you can
Hmm.
give and be a giving person without having to overextend yourself and losing yourself in that process.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I thought that the more I lost myself, the more I meant it, the more loving I was, the more like I was willing to go above and beyond when others weren't. And I would constantly be disappointed by others not meeting me at my level, right?
Hmm.
But then I had to realize that I have to have boundaries in order to be able to be pouring from a full cup. Because I love to pour, I love to give,
Right.
but I had to learn that I can't give from an emptiness. That's not
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah. So for someone out there that's going through some really tough times right now, what advice could you give them?
Breathe, baby. I would say take a deep breath. Something that majorly calms me down when I'm having anxiety attacks or bouts of depression. Again, prayer. I know that a lot of people don't understand or care or fuck with religion, and I don't fuck with religion either, so I understand that. But there's something real special about God and our ancestors and the angels that surround us and the light beings that are here that are
Hmm.
constantly at our disposal to help us bring more light into our lives. We just got
Yeah.
to ask permission.
Right.
We got to ask them to come through. We got to ask them to align us, and we got to ask them to guide us, you know.
Hmm.
I think that that's major. And breathing. Breathe in through your nose, hold that shit for a couple seconds, and breathe out, and do it over and over again until you feel better. Because
Yeah.
oxygen to the brain is important. And a lot of the time when my anxiety comes up, I literally forget to breathe. I
Yeah.
literally don't breathe. Like I sit there and I'm like holding my breath for like minutes at a time, and I'm like, bitch, you're not even underwater. Like, what are you doing? There's
Yeah.
oxygen here. Like, take that shit in.
Well, I do appreciate you taking time to speak with us. I don't know if you have time to take some questions from your
Yeah, that's
fans because
fine.
there's a lot. All right, let's see what we got here. Uh,
going for a walk with fresh air is enough for me sometimes to help clear my mind and calm me, you know. Self-care is the major thing, man. Taking care, eating healthful foods, whatever that means for you, because everybody's different. Literally every body is different. Every single body that exists here needs different things in order to
Right.
feel okay. So I can't give blanket advice, to be
Yeah.
fair, but find the things that work for you. Make a list. Something that helped me a lot was making a list of things that I love doing, right? Like with no reward at the end of it. Like just like, what do I love to do? Like I love reading. I love cooking. I love going for walks. I love being in nature. I love the water. I love like things like this. I like writing.
Right.
I like writing. So making intentional time to complete things that just make me happy. Like that just make me feel good.
Yeah.
And making time for that throughout my day, like intentional time, like even if it's just like an hour, right?
Right.
And again, the working out and the eating right, it's not just to like look good for other people to judge you. You know what I'm saying? It's about giving your body what it needs in order for it to function at its optimal capacity.
Right.
And in its optimal capacity, your body doesn't want you to feel anxiety. Your body doesn't want you to feel scared and helpless and sad, you know, like in your optimal state, your body wants you to feel embodied. You know, like your spirit is inside of it and like you love what you're walking around in. It's just hard with all of the different kind of hours about all of the things that are so wrong with the world and my life or whatever the fuck, you know. So I think the bad thoughts, man, meditating helps me. Listening to frequencies, so like hertz, like different. So there's sound healing is huge for me as well, like crystal bowls or like different kind of hertz. If you look up the chakras are energy centers in our bodies. It comes from Indian tradition, they Hindu tradition, I believe. But basically it's just energy. Sacral chakras are solar plexus and our roots. So if depending on what I'm feeling, right? What are those thoughts about? Am I incessantly thinking about my body? Am I incessantly thinking about I don't know, like what I need to tell somebody or a conversation that I am anxious about having to have, right? That specifically would be my throat chakra. So I would look up like hertz in the throat chakra that help to alleviate the throat chakra. And honestly, that stuff really helps me a lot. It calms my nerves down a lot. But also affirmations are good for bad thoughts. Interrupting the bad thoughts while you're having them, being like, hey, I see you, bad thought, and actually you're lying. This is the truth. And replacing that, you know what I'm saying, with an affirmation. Like if I have a thought that's like, you're unworthy because your body doesn't look good enough, right? That, let's say I have those thoughts often. So if that one comes up for me, then I'm like, Lauren, you're beautiful. You have, this body is more than what other people think of you when they look at it. This body is the house of your soul. This body walks you through life. You know what I'm saying? This body has electro currents that keep you alive even if you want it to die. You know what I'm saying? This thing keeps me alive. And so when I kind of like interrupt those thoughts with truths like that, it helps a lot. And also just like mindful practices, like yoga is a beautiful practice where there's a lot of mindfulness, where you have to embody that. You can't be in your head. Doing things where you can't be in your head.
Yeah, I love all this. Thank you so much for joining us. This is really great, and I'm so happy that you got to bring attention to this really important topic.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you. Thanks, everyone. I'll see you guys later. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.